What is up? Thanks for coming back. Today, as I promised in my last video where we were talking about particles and taking advantage of flip fluids and converting those into Alembic meshes, I want to show you guys how I go about that process. It's not perfect, but I'm gonna show you all where I'm at in that process of using flip fluids to get something more natural with particles. So with that being said, here's an example of another scene that I've done where I was playing with the flip fluid simulation and I exported it out as a Alembic mesh. And, I set up a little scene where I have some materials and that material has a gradient texture on it. And so as the flip fluids get higher and higher, they hit that portion of the gradient where it goes into the red and the lower level is yellow. So it just creates this really cool natural effect. And as you can see, that the whole thing is animated for about 240 frames. So I'm going to do this today. I'm going to show you guys how to create this. I'm probably not going to take it to this point, but I'm going to show you guys how we can get to the point where we export that Alembic mesh and just import it and convert those points into geometry nodes. And then from there, you could play with it and do a lot of other things. So again, here's some shots right here. This is what the whole mesh looks like. This is a simple shot that I did. Again, I've showed you guys over and over again how I set up my shots. And so, this shot right here, I created a different shot from what we had. And again, I'm using the same method of linking things in. I have an assets up here. And so that source simulation, Alembic mesh is in that assets scene. And then I just link everything to my shot so that I can just set up these different shots that I have. And so like, this is another shot where I rotated the simulation a little bit, have the camera in the same exact spot. And then I'm pushing the lens level, amount up. So I'm using, see what we got here, a 135. And then I'm just changing that focal point. So I have a focus point set up and then I'm just focusing on a different part of the mesh, and so like, if I were to render this whole thing out, I can just render some really cool shots. So I could do some establishing shots and then also do some close-ups also, and then just moving that one light around to just create a different effect. So let's switch over and we're going to start a new scene, and we're just going to start from scratch of how to create this type of flip fluid simulation, exporting it out as an Alembic mesh and then geometry nodes from there. Okay, so we're in a new scene in Blender. Again, this is my template. I'm just going to delete all these collections, and then we're going to create a box, and I'm going to make this box about 120. Let's see, 120 by 120 here. And then I'll leave it, we'll leave it 2 feet high. So 24 inches. Let's set it to 12 inches, matter of fact. So we'll set this to 12 inches. And then I'm going to apply the transforms just so that my scale is not out of whack. Right now it's set to 5 because I've changed the dimensions of this box. So I'm just going to set this to apply all transforms so I can reset everything just so that everything is clean under the hood. So after that, this is going to be our water source. So this is going to be our fluid source, as I should reference it as. And then now if we go up here to object, quick effects, and then quick liquid, now we've just changed that surface into a fluid surface. And so if I hit play, we'll see that it falls and then it's hitting something that we can't see. So what's happening is that when I did that quick liquid, it made a container that we cannot see because this right now is set to mesh, but that's what's happening. When you do fluid effects, they're contained inside of a container, or liquid domain up here as it's called. So now if we just go back and we go up here to our physics tab, we can go over here and look down here where it says mesh. And what I'm going to do is just turn that off. So recently in this version of Blender, they've set it to mesh by default. So I'm going to turn this off, and now we can see our domain. So this is the liquid domain where the liquid is contained and it's running that simulation, right? And so if I switch over to wireframe, you'll see that that fluid surface is right here. And so if I hit play again, we'll see that it plays and we can see our simulation, but now just in the form of particles. Okay. And what I want is the particles, right? And the reason they're changing color is because it's set to show the velocity of those particles. So they go from blue to about red. Red means really fast, blue means really slow. So if I hit play again, you'll see they'll move and turn color, and then they slow down and turn blue. All right. So I don't want it to fall. What I want is this liquid to just kind of rest and not move. Okay. So all this liquid domain is it's a piece of geometry. And being that it's a piece of geometry, we can change the size of this geometry. So if I go to edit mode by pressing tab, I'm just going to simply change the dimensions of this liquid domain. All right. So I'm going to go to the side view, raise the bottom part so that it's right underneath that liquid. And then I'm going to take the top view. I'm going to press S, Shift Z so that I can scale it in the X and Y axis. And I'm going to set it really close to that liquid, just like that. And then I'm going to go to the side view again, select these top vertices and just bring this down a little bit now. I don't need all that space. All right. So we're going to set it just something like that. Okay. So now I've just shrunken that whole domain down. If I hit play again, let's test it out. So now that it's closer and it's a tighter fit, nothing moves, right? That liquid is not falling, is no longer falling. So now what I want to do is I want to add some physics to it. So what I want to do is add a turbulence. So I'm going to add a turbulence force field, and then I'm going to just hit play to see what happens. So as you can see, not much is happening. So what now I'm going to do is turn up the strength. Okay, so now I can see something is happening with the turbulence. Okay, so now we just need to find a happy medium to where our liquid is not moving like crazy. And so this is the part where you're going to start doing some testing to see what works for you. Okay. And so I want something very subtle. I don't need it to move really fast at all. So I just need something really subtle, right? And I can change the size of my turbulence too. So I'll go like 0.5 starting out. Okay. And so now I got a lot of randomization happening in this liquid. So I like this. Okay. And I want it to move even slower. So I'm going to cut it down, this strength down even more. So if I say 0.25. Okay. So this might be a good starting point. Okay. For my turbulence. And so now we're just going to go and start adding more details. And as you guys can see, it's a pretty simple workflow to do this. Okay. Now there is a stipulation in the end that I want to talk about that I need help in figuring out, and maybe someone else may know about this. And I know that with Blender, the particle system is not as powerful as we want it yet. However, there is geometry nodes, and there's geometry nodes have geo simulations, if I remember the name right. So we have that now too. I don't know it much yet, so I'm just working with Blender's original particle system. So I've seen some really cool stuff with the geo simulations, but I just not gotten there yet. But I'll bring up the stipulation at the end of the video and talk about it. So anyway, with that being said, I want to play with the fluid some more. So I'm going to go here to the liquid domain, and I want to add some more detail. Okay, so with the liquid domain, I want to set my sampling up to about 16. Okay, so now we're going to have more particles. So as you can see, it's more dense. And then I'm also going to set the size of these particles at a smaller level. So I'm going to set the radius to like, let's try 0.2 starting out, see what we get. Okay, 0.2 is too small, so let's go 0.5. Okay, so we got 0.5, right? And as you can see, there's way more particles now. And we can see that turbulence field happening, right? All these little swirls. That's really cool effects that we can get with these particles because of the turbulence field. Okay, so we got that. And then I'm going to set the randomness up to 1 so that it doesn't look like a grid starting out. So now I don't have a grid because I set the randomness to 1. I'm going to set the particle maximum to 32, set this to 16, hit play again to test it out to see what we get. And as you can see, that turbulence field is running to make the particles move like, and we're using a liquid sim. So we already get a lot for free, which is good about this, right? So I'm starting off with a liquid simulation, and then I'm adding turbulence to that liquid simulation. All right, so next thing, let's see if I have everything I want here. So sampling. Okay, so I want to turn up the sampling some more. Oh, 5 is the limit. Okay, I didn't realize that. See, system maximum is here. Maximum number of fluid particles that are allowed in this. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. We want, no, I'm leaving that to 0. That's right. That's something different. I was thinking about actual particles. Okay. Randomness, 32, 16. Okay, so we got all that done. Let me just hit play one more time. Okay. All right. So from here, what we can do is we can say this is done. It's pretty straightforward. It was really fast to set up. So now let's say, you know, if you wanted to continue playing with some other elements, right? Such as, oh, you know what? I can show one more thing. Matter of fact, that's the other thing I wanted to show you guys. So I can actually turn up the resolution of this domain, this liquid domain. So again, we're using this liquid domain, and this liquid domain is set up in a manner of using what you call voxels. And so there's an invisible grid that you're not able to see right now, but this little box here is the size of our voxels. And so if I was to set this up at a higher level, now it's at 64 and this box got smaller. So what's happening is we're getting more resolution inside of our simulation. Now, your simulation times go way up. However, you do get more detail. So if I was to hit play now, it's going to play a lot slower because I've turned up that resolution in my liquid domain. So now I've got way more particles in this simulation. So the more detail you want, right, is if you want more detail in your simulation, this is what you would do. You would turn up this resolution and then also play with your sampling, because in each voxel box, you can put more particles within each one. So that's what's happening. So as you can see, right, we're getting a really, really cool simulation. This looks really cool just looking at it from the top down view. I can make a abstract art just from this alone. Okay, so I can take this whole simulation now and export this out as a Alembic mesh. Okay, so I will pause the video and I'm going to export this out as a Alembic mesh, and then bring it back into the scene as a new, I'm going to start a new scene in this same file, and we'll start setting up our geo nodes. Okay, so I've exported out that simulation as an Alembic mesh, and I've re-imported it, and now we've just have points imported. Okay, and so by default, I like to just export the whole scene just to ensure I get everything. And just to note, when you guys export, what I usually do is I'll select everything in the scene and then go down to export, export Alembic. And then when the dialog comes up, I always go and select selection only, so that I know that it's solidified that I have my selection selected and I'm exporting those actual elements. And so when I bring it in, it's going to come in like this. And all I usually do is I'll select anything I don't want, and I'll just go ahead and start deleting all those elements. and I'll just start cleaning it up. So I can actually just select the actual simulation, do an invert, and then delete. So now I just have the simulation alone. Okay. So now the simulation, it comes in as a bunch of points, right? And again, if I was to sit and render this, nothing's going to really show up. So if matter of fact, this might come in different because I did particles. So let me add a point light just to make sure I'm right about that. Okay. So yeah, they are going to render actually. Okay. So what's happening is your elements are coming in as points, right? And you don't have much control over these points yet. And so what you want to do is you want to take control of your points by using geometry nodes and also being able to have the ability to add materials. Okay. So being that I said that, so I'm just going to take this screen and split it in half, my viewport that is, and I'm going to create a new window, and then we're going to go geometry nodes. So over here, geometry nodes, and from here, we're going to create a new set of geometry nodes. So I'm going to go up to new, and we're going to start a new one. And then now we're going to add our first one, which is points. Oops, not that one. Let's undo that. So we're going to go points to vertices. Going to get that out, and then we're going to go mesh to points. Got that. And then we're going to go set material for our material when we do that. Set material. Okay. So let's just connect everything up. So we're just going to do that. I already have everything in order. Do that. Do that. Oops. Connect that. And connect that one. All right. And now I can change the radius. And so now if I do a 0.1, I can make them smaller, right? And we got our material set up. So we could just add a material, hit new. Let's just make it like orange color for now. Red, orange, something like that. Do that. We'll set the reflectiveness or roughness down, and we'll start with that. So we got that set up. Okay, so we got that set up, and I'm just gonna do some house cleaning. So I'm gonna create a collection, liquid stem. So I just have it in a collection so that when I start creating a shot, I already have that set up. Okay, and then we can select our material here, right? And I can rename this material, call it particle or liquid sim 2. Okay, so now we got everything set up. We did all the house cleaning stuff. And again, if I was to play this, right, here's our simulation, right? Really, really cool. So there's our particle sim, okay? And then from there, we can start building a shot. So that's pretty much it. So we can start building a shot from here. I think I have some time, so we'll just go ahead and do that now. So we'll just go, I'm going to go copy settings, and then I'm going to go here, turn this to 3D viewport, right? As I've done before, the same stuff again. I'm going to go collection instance, liquid sim, got that in now. So now I'm just saving, optimized. I'm not over here re-importing the Alembic mesh and creating more data. We're just linking this in so that we have a lot of flexibility with this stuff, and it's very fast so that we can continue working fast. So I'm going to add a plane. Actually, I'm not going to add a plane in this shot. So I'm going to add my camera, and this time with my camera, I'm going to do a top down. So let's see. Oh, where's my camera at? Camera. There we go. Okay, so we're just going to bring the camera up, and then 0, 0, 0, like that. Look through the camera. Let's pull it. Oh, we're going to set our focal length first. So like, I like doing 135 to kind of just flatten things out. And then we can set our frame like I always do. So I'm just going to start with the square frame as I'm going to do actual iPhone or a phone format. So I'm just going to flip this 1080, 1920. Yeah, 1920, just like that. So we're just going phone style today. Just do something different. And then now I can just get some more real estate on this left side. Squeeze this in. And then I'm gonna press T, Control tilde, and turn this off so that I just have a clean viewport for renderings. And then I'm gonna select my camera, go over here, and then turn viewport display to 1, pass part 2. And then we got that set. And then what else? Okay, we got all that set. And now I want to play with my focus point. So I need to create a empty plane access. And I'm just going to make this really big so I can always tell where my focus point is on my shot. Press F2. And then type in focus point to name my empty, just to stay organized. And then we're going to connect that to my camera too. And so we're going to go down here, turn on depth of field, select focus point, and then I'm just going to create a collection just to stay organized. Camera rig. Cool. So we got that organized. And then now we're ready to go. So now I'm just going to turn on my render, start cycles up. And then by default in my template file, I'm just going to turn this film off so that my background's not transparent. We just got black behind the particles. We got that set. I'm going to turn off denoise too so that I can just see the render. Since we're dealing with so many particles, I don't want it to like smudge everything out. And then let's see, viewport set to 1024. And then we're going to add a light. So I'm going to scrub through my animation or my simulation a little bit, and then now we're just going to add a light to see what happens. So hopefully this looks cool. So we're going to, let's start off, put the light off to the right for starting out. Set that, move it closer, and we're going to scale the light up just like that. And then move it in closer. Okay, because we can't see it. Set it up. Yeah. And then I might scale it down just a little bit just to make the shadows a little sharper. Okay, so now we're just going to play with the brightness of the light. Let's go 32. 64. And then, you know what? Let's look at our render color management because, again, we now have Chronos. So I'm going to set it to Chronos. We get a really rich color now. I'm going to go to my material, select that. Oh, that's right, it's link. I will leave it for now. Okay, so we won't mess with the material for now. Okay, so I got to set to Chronos, which is that new color profile in Blender. Really makes your colors come out. I'm doing some other experiments that I'm working on for another video. Really cool stuff with particles. And the colors are just awesome in it that I'm using. So that one's coming soon. Okay, so this is what we get, right? And this is this really fast setup. And now we can just start playing around with stuff. So, right, I can scroll through the simulation some more and find some new shots too. So like, you know, this one's kind of flat, whereas like the original one that I showed you guys at the start of the video, they were more, the particles rose up more because I had a really rough turbulence. But this is something different that I got out of this is cool too, you know? And in that preview too, like what helps about this simulation too, going back over here, is that you can really tell what's happening. You know, you get a good preview before you even export it, so you're not wasting time. Again, this is just for content purposes that I'm showing how to do this process. But when you guys go ahead and start doing stuff, you know, you could really play around with all the settings and even add in more different physics just to get variation in this whole fluid sim, right? So going back to the shot, right, I can start playing around with stuff. So like, let's say I want to take this whole scene, right, and I kind of want to shoot the camera down the particle sim. So like maybe I can just rotate it a little bit. And the fact that I have some depth of field in my shot too helps. And the other thing too, I can cheat now because I'm not worried about the size of this particle sim. I'm not worried about it overloading my file. So I can also just, hey, copy it, right? Because now it's just an Alembic mesh that I'm working with, and it's just referencing that data, and I can just copy it. So I can do like a shift Y to move. Is that the one I want? Shift X. So I can just kind of set it like this and kind of blend it, right? And I can rely on my depth of field, right, to just kind of focus a little further up on, let's see, let's get that focus point. So I can select that, do Shift X, and then kind of move further up this way, right? And then go to my camera, or yeah, my camera, and then change my depth of field to something like, oh, it's already really low actually, 1.4. Let's see what happens here, you know? And I could just play with this piece right here more to see if I can blend that in, you know? So maybe something like there, you know? And I can play with it, or I could just set it at the same angle too, which I should have thought of. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but I can go, let's see, select this one and that one, and I can use the align tool and set my rotation like that. There we go. And then now I can go to a side view, and then I'll realign it like this to get something better. See if that works. But you guys get the gist of it. That's, you know, where I'm going with it. But you can kind of tile them around a little bit if you want, you know. But again, these are a lot of particles, and I'm sitting far away from it too. So I could just say, well, I can just push the camera in too, right? So I can, or push this up toward the camera, the lights and the lights and the focus point. So I can just push this up further closer to the camera, so I'm just focused on one point of the particle sim, right? And then shift this over here and kind of just focus on one point of the particle sim, you know? So maybe I want to focus down here, something like that, you know? So like the foreground is a little bit blurry, and then as we look up, you know, we're getting something different. It's getting it more into focus, you know. Now we're just focusing on one part as a sim is running. So that's how that can work. It's pretty fun to do. And let's say I'll continue. I'll continue going. I'll just take this to the finish. I was gonna cut the video a little shorter, but so if I remember how to do this, okay, I can't remember. I don't remember it all. But now if we wanted to add that gradient, right, what we can do is take our material that we created. So I need to go back to scene 1, and I'm going to just turn on some of these default HDRIs in Blender so that I can analyze what's going on. I don't think this is going to work that well because I don't have a lot of height on this particle sim, but I'll show you guys the process of creating a gradient. So we're going to add a ramp, plug that into the color, and then we'll just choose 2 different colors. So I'll just go with or find a color, see what we can get. We'll go red or pink. Sure, let's go pink. And then we'll go like a green. All right, boom. Extreme differences so we can see what's happening. Okay, so we got that. And then I'm gonna create a gradient node. Set that here. All right, and as you can see, we're getting our gradient already. And then Control T so that we can turn this on. And then I just plug in my object because I want it to look at the object. And so from there, you can play with, all you do now from here, let's say the object has more height, you would just rotate one of these axes to have a gradient go from bottom to top. I think I did it in the Y if I remember right. And so, yeah, there we go. So you can see a little bit of it happening here. So if I just move, oh, not that. So if I start moving, I think one of these, let's see, the Z or X, let's try the X. So yeah, I think it's the X. Yeah, there we go. So it's the X. So if I start moving the X, then I can set my gradient properly, right? And then I can also play with this color ramp and then bring these items closer together to find that spot that works. So I need to probably bring this back, or no, bring this pink back, and then bring some more green in, just like that. All right, so now we're getting a pretty cool effect. And so I can start bringing the red up more, right? And then bring the green down. So as you can see, right, now we're getting some. So now if I was to turn this off, because it's going to affect all scenes. So scene world, and then switch back to the other scene. Do that. So now we can see what we get from that, right? I think I'm looking on the underside now. Let's go material preview. It's not going to show it. Oh, it does show it. Yeah, I think we might be looking on the... Nope, it's not showing up. That's interesting. I wonder if I get something. Yeah, I wonder why that happened. But anyway, I just wanted to walk you guys how to set up that fluid sim is the core part of this video. You know, this is all the extra stuff because I've shown you guys how I approach setting up shots before. So I'm sure a lot of you guys out there may know more about how to use these geometry nodes and implementing materials in creative ways. So it would be cool to get some responses in the comments of like other ideas to just bounce off each other's to figure out how we can get something even better than what we're seeing here, you know? So again, I appreciate you guys watching the videos. I'm really enjoying sharing my knowledge in 3D. I've been doing it for years, love it. And I'm just going to continue coming up with new videos and making new ideas. So catch you guys on the next one. Peace.